Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, November 8th. It's 4:12 and we've got a golden pack. We've got something that we need to trade out. We only need to do 2 of these, so if I trade out this 40, this then leaves us 2 games with Druid and a Hunter, and then destroy 40 minions, which will get done regardless, and win 3 games with the Priest. So we don't even need to do Druid and Hunter, we can just do these 2 almost without even trying. Now, I'm in a weird position because only in the Asian account was I keeping gold cards. So I'm probably gonna dust all of these 5 classic golds cards. The hope, I suppose, here would be to get 1 golden legendary, if not more, so I could dust it for a significant amount of dust to get more epics and legendaries. Like, if these are just all classic with, like, these are all common with 1, like, uncommon or rare. So, like, that's not really worth anything to me. Like, what this, I suppose, tells me is I can type in the word golden and I can come out here and disenchant this for 50. And then I can disenchant this for 50. And then I can disenchant this for 50. And I can disenchant this one for 100. And I can disenchant this for 50. Which gets me up to 720 dust. And it's not even like I was missing anything when you just look at classic cards. Like, the things I'm missing that I guess I could have gotten, I'm still kind of missing. They're all legendary or epics. And so by taking those 5 golden cards, turning them into dust, I really can't even afford anything I'm still missing here. And these are the things that I probably should... Oh, I guess I am missing some things. Hey, let's create this, get it off the list, and create this, get it off the list. I don't know how I've overlooked that. We just want purples and legendaries, so we'll create that to get it off the list. That is pretty ridiculous considering I've opened like probably 400 classic card packs on this account, and I'm still missing some classic rares. That is very odd. So I guess it helped a little. But I still can't craft any of those. If I went to like standard cards that I was missing, probably could make some of these things that are Knights of the Frozen Realm and such. And we could try, I suppose, to have more of those things, but I don't think there's a real reason to do that right now. Like, my account would have to be more improved than that. Like, it feels almost like I could do that, but it's still better to save up for the classic legendaries that we know aren't going anywhere. At least I'm not missing any common cards. or at least not in the classic part in the standard set. Let's see, has the shop changed anything more? Nope. Just that it's now in US dollars, and there's this Kobolds expansion. So we can start with the Tavern Brawl. If we get to pick who we play as, we'll play as the priest, and we'll get through that. Now, I am not exactly sure how much we have in the way of news, but it's probably not too bad. Let's see. Priest, choose. Before we choose, sure, why not? Let's see what the rules are of this Tavern Brawl is. Summoners from across the world have come to compete. When you cast a spell, add a random minion that costs the same cost as the summoned. Okay, so this would ideally be an all spell card deck, but instead we'll just go with what the game picked. This will be interesting to kind of see what does Hearthstone, how well does it pick cards in the Tavern Brawl. I bet it doesn't pick cards very well at all in any instance. Yeah. I think it probably just picks some, like, it probably has an algorithm that says let's pick some 1 mana cards, let's pick some 2 mana cards, let's pick some 3 mana cards, let's pick some 4 mana cards, and it just picks a random one from any of those metrics. So our first bit of news we have is a new couple of titles under the Utawari Rumo no series are coming out, and action and story focused games, the spring 2018. So without having to say that very long name again, what is Utawari no? Let's see.
Don't forget to tip your dollar.
Let's see. Like the original game, Utawari no Shinyuki Morio e no Komorito for PlayStation 4 and PS Vita. Let's see, I guess we could read that article and see what the original game is about. I can tell you the characters look to be like fox humanoids. At least some of them do.
You are the shadow's puppets.
But so it's probably based on an anime or a light novel or a manga or something. It seems like it might be about fighting, sort of. Like, and that's a problem with a lot of Japanese games, is like, if even I, who sort of follow the common things, the common trends of what animes are happening and what animes aren't, if I don't recognize it, it's pretty obscure. So I just have to move over. There's a Japanese indie game, which I'm slowly learning. Apparently there is a Japanese indie market now, called Dungeon Manager ZB Resurrection. It's coming to the PlayStation 4 in November 22nd. So Dungeon Manager might be something like Dungeon Keeper, but maybe not with the same comedy of Dungeon Keeper, which honestly that wouldn't interest me very much if that's all you have to offer. But apparently it seems like it was a DS game or something, because you're drawing on the screen the paths of a dungeon, and then you're dragging and dropping where you're gonna put traps and enemies. It's a tower defense game, basically. Yep, that looks pretty boring. Eleanor, the VR case files has been delayed back a month, which Eleanor is a very odd release in the first place. The re-release of it coming to the Switch and all. Like, here's a game nobody really even expected to come out at all, and then all of a sudden it came out. It said there was going to be a Switch version. It said there was going to be a VR version. One would have thought that in saying all of those things, they would have had all of their ducks in a row, and there would have been no way for a delay of a re-release of an old game. But apparently not. Like, that just seems ridiculous. Like, if you're going to announce a surprise re-release of an old game, there's no reason to even announce it until you have everything ready to go. The only thing I can imagine that knocked it back is it failed certification. That I suppose would be the one thing. And I guess that's what we have to assume happened here, is that Sony, which isn't particularly picky, failed it for certification. Moving on. Okami HD for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, and is coming out, which is great because I never got to play Okami and I definitely wanted to. And it's due out December 12th in North America and Europe, in Japan on December 13th for PC, and the 21st in Xbox One in Japan. So yeah, I really wanted to play Okami back when it was a Wii game, and I just never got around to it. That certainly was at the point where I started to fall off of playing Nintendo games and owning a lot of them. Although, to be fair, I was never a huge 100% collector of any games for any console. I certainly had a lot of them, but there was certainly a lot of gems that I missed also. Next bit of news. We may just power through this at this point. The boss of Radeon, Raja Kaduri, has left AMD. He has decided to extend his sabbatical indefinitely. So, earlier this fall, Raja Kaduri announced he was taking a sabbatical with intentions to return in December. Now, as reported by Hexos, he's chosen to extend his leave permanently. The leave began in September following the launch of the Vega, and ended in an apparent desire for some downtime and relaxation with his family. We can only guess at the huge amount of pressure Raja had been under during the latest tenure at AMD. And so, like, Radeon and AMD are working together, and then we saw a story earlier yesterday where Monday, where Intel and AMD were working together. So I think what we're getting here is that there probably was some long negotiation where Raja was out of the picture. He either left voluntarily or was asked to leave, but they didn't want to announce it right then when they were releasing a new product. And it seems like AMD and Intel are going to become great friends all of a sudden. But it still doesn't really make sense, because I thought NVIDIA and Intel were working together. That's crazy. So, in the wake of this growing wave of interest and concern about games having microtransactions, which is a great thing, it's nice to see people are starting to actually care about things like that. Let's see. Take-Two has announced, sorry I went quiet there, Take-Two has announced they plan to only release 2 games with recurrent consumer spending hooks. Which, okay, that might be interesting, but we need to dig a little deeper and see what Take-Two games are actually even coming out. Because there very possibly are only 2 games that anybody cares about. So I'm on the Wikipedia of Take-Two, and Take-Two has the issue of being having a lot of subsidiaries, so a lot of 2K things. So let's see. Scrolling down, Take-Two certainly has put out a lot of games, but scrolling down to modern time and to be announced, let's see what they've got, because they've probably lost a lot of those companies if I was to guess. Like, I haven't seen Take-Two in a while. Copy a card from your opponent's deck and add it to your hand.
My echoes are
Just a pinch of it.
Well, I'm gonna lose.
Feel my pain.
Well
Let's
played.
see. I'm still at 2004. Man, this is a long article of games. They put out a bunch of things. I'm seeing some WWE games. So, we have a game called Agent from Rockstar North. We have Red Dead Redemption 2, which I imagine they don't plan to have any microtransactions in it. They have the Kerbal Space Program expansion, which I imagine they weren't going to put anything in that. They have WWE 2K18, which I think does have some kind of microtransactions. They have Sid Meier's Civilization EDU. That won't have microtransactions. LA Noire, the VR case files on LA Noire will probably have
Anduin versus Jaina.
microtransactions. NHL Supercard might. NBA 2K18 I believe does. XCOM doesn't. XCOM 2, the War of the Chosen. So my NBA 2K18 for Android and iOS. BioShock Remastered came out. So looking at a list of the games they've made, yeah, it's easy for them to say they only have 2 games with microtransactions when in reality they really only plan on releasing 4 games.
One shot.
So that clearly is some BS attempt by a PR company to
Side effects? No.
to try to get some good grace while avoiding a backlash when they do release more games with microtransactions. And people should certainly see through it. Like, the only right response to get any kind of thank you, and frankly they don't, the video game companies don't even deserve a thank you, if they said we plan to not have any microtransactions or loot boxes in our games ever again. Period. Then you could say thank you, and then you could say, oh fine, then that will encourage me to buy your games in the future. But honestly, you're just saying thank you for something that should have always been the case. The next story we have, Zynga sees its earnings rise for the second quarter in a row, so Zynga's still doing good. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds has sold more than 20 million copies, so that's certainly a lot. Let's see. One health to a hero. Do this. And then this.
Don't forget to tip your Torin.
And we have to kill this guy. But now if I heal all of these, I'll summon more crystals. Sony has unveiled a new 5 adventure PlayStation 4 Pro bundle just as soon as the Xbox One arrives. So let's see what the 5 adventures are. So it's a PlayStation 4 1TB console for GT Sport Limited Edition, which I don't fully agree is a adventure game to start off with, but whatever. The next game is Uncharted The Lost Legacy, which that's one game, Uncharted The Lost Legacy, then Horizon Zero Dawn, and the new Frozen Wildlands DLC, and then Wipeout Omega, which again is a racing game. So GT Sport and Wipeout are both racing games, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4 games, not 5. No, they're counting the DLC as its own separate thing. So it's not even a 5-game bundle, really, because you can't play the Frozen Wildlands DLC by itself. So they can't even make a bundle that is the right size. Wow. Talk about ridiculous. And all of that is selling for how much? £450, which is a lot of money if you translate that into US dollars. Let's see. Actually, if I search £450, it'll probably just, in Google, it'll probably just change that right over. Hey, yeah, it does. First thing, $590.28 for US dollars. Yeah, that's not a good offer. I mean, it's not even a good offer, I think, for the PlayStation 4 Pro bundle. I think what you could better do is offer everything you can offer, which I would hope is a lot.
Let me change your mind.
As far as the Uncharted series, I think you'd put The Last of Us in there. I think you'd put old God of War things. There's so many things that I imagine, or I think at least, are backwards compatible on the PlayStation 4 Pro in some version. Yeah, I would throw in a lot of digital content, because obviously these are going to be digital games anyways, I imagine.
I hear you got a problem.
I maybe would throw in one racing game, but that's about it. And the idea is the 5 adventure bundle implies, at least, that there's going to be some other adventure bundle later on. And I'm really not certain that that's the case.
See now the power of the dark fallen.
I guess I just need to cast spells to cast spells in this tavern brawl. We really do need the PlayStation to bring more of an A game to the table, because we certainly have Nintendo trying to take over the market and trying to have as many games ported now to the Switch, because the Switch has succeeded. I just saw an article talking about how all of the Japanese video game markets are now rushing to make Switch games because they thought the Switch was going to fail like the Wii U did, and now that they realize that's not the case, that they want to get in on the action. Come on, evolve, and let's see, poisonous, and attack here. This will be funny to see if the poisonous, I would assume it would go back to them, and so I just evolved him to be poisonous. But yeah, and we see Microsoft talking about how they're going to try to acquire more games to get more games on their console. And then you see kind of Sony just sitting on the laurels, and Sony probably is in the first position place right now, but that doesn't mean they should ever slow down. They should. There's certainly a lot more games I would like to see on the PlayStation 4. I'd like to see a healthy 3, maybe even 4 companies competing to have more games created and put on their console. That will probably help PC just fine, because everybody, on the other hand, is more than willing to allow what was I gonna say? Yeah, PC gets benefited because nobody cares, and everybody makes more PC things. Interesting. So if I somehow survive this turn, that would be amazing, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So instead, I have 2 attacks. One has to kill this guy, and I might as well just kill another one of these characters. Apparently you can battle Anubis, the Egyptian god of death, in Assassin's Creed Origins now. It's called the Trials of the Gods Challenger, pitting you against a gargantuan form of Anubis. It seems very ridiculous, and it brings the story back to the whole idea of well, the whole crazy idea of being in a computer simulation instead of being in the past. I would prefer them get away from this element completely. Even if they still were going to hold on to the technology, I would prefer it to be you're fighting Anubis because you smoked some hashies and are high, or you just have a dream sequence instead, like, or you were poisoned by an enemy. Anything whatsoever to get away from this is in the simulation aspect. And right now I'm looking at a GIF of Anubis, and half of his body is missing, and it's showing lines of polygons to depict that this is all simulation. And it just breaks the story for what little story there is in Assassin's Creed. Need for Speed Payback review. That game came out a while ago, and it wasn't very well received, obviously, because I've already forgotten about it, and it doesn't seem like this review disagrees with that. And then here's an article from Gamasutra that does a post-mortem on Black the Fall, which is a puzzle platformer that, when did it even come out? July 11th, and a lot of things certainly have happened. I mean, you certainly can't disagree with that idea. It's like a ton of things have happened since then. A ton of games have come out, and this one just kind of fell by the wayside. In a real way, too many games have come out this year, and too many good games came out this year, and we very possibly are going to see not that much, not as many good games come out next year, and we didn't have that many good games come out the year before. Like, it was pretty bad. This article wraps up I assume the developer talking about doing a post-mortem of their own creation, and it has 3 points that I kind of agree with. 1, hope is not a strategy. 2, always ask, never assume. And 3, waiting is not an action. Let's see. Here's our next article. Requiem Reapers shows up on the chat saying hi. Hi, Requiem Reapers. Ubisoft's player recurring investment revenues have outpaced digital game sales, which is to say, Ubisoft's microtransactions have outsold digital game sales for the first time, which really sucks, but isn't super surprising, considering how awful Ubisoft is.
Side effects.
Rekamikos, what brawl is this? This is the new weekly tavern brawl. There's no way that I know of to play the old brawls. That's probably a failing of Blizzard. It would be nice if there was some like record mode of going back and playing the old brawls, but it wouldn't really work because most brawls require you to play somebody else, and I don't think very many people would choose to play the old brawls because they're always these bad experiments. Like, maybe once in a while you'll get a gem in the rough of a good tavern brawl, but almost all of them kind of suck. This one in particular, it just summons a creature based on every spell you played, but I let Blizzard pick the cards, so I don't even have that many spells. So I need to go back and rebuild the deck after this game because I'm certainly not succeeding. And that's what I needed to do, is succeed, is get 2 or 3 victories with the priest and destroy a bunch of minions. Let's see. Let's move on to the next bit of stories. I think we're gonna kind of just speed through this stream if I just cover the news. If people want to talk, today would be a great day. Ask questions and such. Penguin Wars is coming to the West for the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One in early 2018. I'm pretty sure there's been a Penguin Wars series that was really old, but I imagine this is a newer version of a game. Let's see.
Drink the power. might steal.
See, Penguin Wars looks kind of like. It looks kind of like air hockey with multiple players, or at least that's what I'm seeing right now. Maybe it was an old arcade game. Yeah, and it doesn't. I was thinking maybe it was a bunch of mini games, but no, it really just looks like an air hockey game with maybe some Arkanoid elements to it.
Embrace the void. Drink up.
Well, that might be slightly interesting. If you like air hockey, if you don't, I don't see any reason why you'd want. Apparently, Minecraft Story Mode started Season 2, and they're already in episode 4 of 5 episodes, and I have completely forgotten about it. I don't see a real reason why I'd want to go back and do Minecraft Story Mode, particularly since Telltale just kind of fired 25% of its employees, which I'll get to as soon as I hit that article. Let's see, what is this? What is this article saying?
All realities, all dimensions are open to me.
So the creators of the game The Wild 8 have had some sort of split, and the game has been sold off to its publisher Hypertrain Digital. In the meantime, the original developers are off making a new game called Dead Dozen. And the weird thing here is this is like 2 games I don't even recognize. Like, obviously I don't recognize the new game called Dead Dozen, which isn't a terrible name, but I would certainly have called it Dozen Dead myself. That rolls off the tongue. Double. And see, that really is just a great example of the problem with the video game industry, is that you would think the phrase publisher means all they do is publish, but it's not really the case. So often the publisher is the one that ends up owning the games and having all the control, and they are much better explained as investors in the game, because they end up owning the rights to everything through either owning stock or just owning control through contracts. Let's see. And The Wild 8. Wait a minute. I don't think this game came out. This was that game with the wolves. It's a top-down survival where you have like wolves with you, or wolves are attacking you. And after its $50,000 Kickstarter. Oh, so this might just be a Kickstarter scam completely. They got people to kickstart The Wild 8. They sell the game without really doing much work on it to the publisher to make more money, and then they just move over to their next game, which I bet will be back on Kickstarter. Yeah, Kickstarter is such a lovely accommodator of people doing fishy things. I guess it also makes it easy to report things too. However, more evidence that you don't
A game? So kind of you to join me.
that you don't want to fund people through Kickstarter, or fund people in general. So here's an article. I had already talked about Take-Two saying it only wants microtransactions into, only plans to have microtransactions in 2 of its games. Here's basically the exact same news, just being reported in a different way. And the way this headline reads it is, Take-Two wants recurrent consumer spending opportunities in every future game. So, yeah, just... It really is just a matter of how can you spin the same information. One way you can say, well, it's only 2. And then when you look at that information, you realize, well, they're only making 2 games right now. So yeah, Take-Two is going to embrace microtransactions. They've been embracing microtransactions for a long time.
You're not that sharp.
Nintendo shut down the Miiverse. In all honesty, that really didn't mean anything to me, and I don't think it means much to anybody, or well, for in a few years at least. The only real issue is there probably were a few games that had some level of integration that is now disabled, which that'll stink certainly.
We have many.
There we go. I want to point out, just as an opinion piece here, Giant Bomb spent several hours streaming and saying goodbye to the Miiverse. They haven't, in a real long time, done a lot of footage of them actually playing games, or even like writing and publishing articles. It's like they're getting to the point where they're making less and less content, or at least it feels that way to me, and that kind of sucks. On the other hand, maybe I'm working my way to not liking the content they create anyway, so I'm just really falling out of love with what Giant Bomb has been doing pretty much since Ryan died. Like, I gave it a couple of years and stuck with it, but man, maybe it's not even in. It's probably CBS reacquiring them. Speaking of making content, I bit the bullet and watched the Nordvania Live video Twitch stream that Randy Pitchford did. It's kind of a shame Jim Sterling didn't get told to watch that and hasn't seen it apparently, because at certain points, like, Randy Pitchford certainly said some great things that you could use against him. Like, at one point he says, I'm probably on the autism spectrum. I'm like, okay. He talks on a few instances against the lawsuit against him for false advertising for alien colonial marines, and he still shows that he is particularly, like, misunderstanding the arguments that are being made intentionally or unintentionally. He phrases it very much like a small change was made to a trailer, and that's the reason people are upset, when people are upset because the game was basically completely different from what the trailer looked like. At least that's what the other side says. I don't actually know myself, since I haven't played. I haven't played Alien Colonial Marines, and I guess I'll get around to it eventually. Maybe. But for the most part, it was a really long and uninformative thing. Like, immediately somebody asks about Borderlands 3, he says he has nothing to say. He was I think very disingenuously gung-ho to have people call up and challenge him on things, but then he was also call screening, and one can't really prove it, but the very first screened call that came through was somebody very, very nice to him, way too nice. And everybody that was nice to Randy Pitchford was nice for the same reason, because they love games that Gearbox has made. I don't know if he really has had too much to do with any of that. If I'm just going to be honest. Like, it very possibly is the fact that Borderlands succeeded in spite of Randy Pitchford, not because of him. Oops, killed that guy. I should have killed this guy. And, like, everybody that was a screened caller that was allowed in didn't really have anything to say. They didn't sound good. They're very, like, very much... A lot of them didn't even seem like they could speak English that well, which is odd, because they were also not allowing international calls. They hadn't set up a Discord or anything like that. There was definitely a lot of elements that they could have worked on. People who wanted to ask questions on Twitch had to have somebody call in to the show to represent them, because they just didn't have anybody on set up to actually look at the chat and respond to it. Like, really, really unprofessional and ill-prepared first episode of your podcast. And it seems very much like Randy Pitchford just went to TwitchCon and somebody at Twitch encouraged him to do this. But it's not helpful. Like, it doesn't get out any information. Going forward, episode after episode, it's just going to be people like, when's Borderlands 3? When's Borderlands 3? And he's just going to delight in denying people any information about Borderlands 3. Which very possibly might have been his intention in the first place. It's just to just delight in denying people information.
Extraordinary.
So yeah, it wasn't good. And, like, I haven't really seen any interviews or any articles or anything come out from Randy Pitchford that has any information. He woefully does not know what's going on in Gearbox, or at least he pretends like he doesn't very well, because he doesn't seem to talk about anything unless he's just hyping things, which, you know, often is the case with a CEO. It's like, most CEOs of companies don't know anything about their companies. They're just making broad decisions, generally based around trying to increase the stock price of their company. So yeah, if anybody else saw that Nardvania live, which would be unlikely, because after a day I looked at it and it had only like 66 views on YouTube. Maybe it had a lot more views on Twitch, but those are going to go away. And, like, yeah, I don't think even a lot of reporters knew it was happening, which is sad, or cared.
Unleash me.
Like, I could not see watching another episode of that. Like, it makes no sense at all. If it was an official Gearbox streams, and they were going to start with CEO Randy Pitchford, and then next week was going to be the head of design, and talking about their design concept, or something like that, that would make sense. Sort of. 3 or less attack. But yeah, just every time they stream Randy, yeah. Well, let me get off that point.
Total corruption.
Like, the only person I want to see that stream is Jim Sterling, so I can see him make fun of Randy Pitchford. But I think even Jim Sterling is starting to develop more class than just to attack him, because there's no point in giving him any more coverage. Well, Mass Effect was 10 years old a couple days ago with the N7 day, and really nothing got announced. But there are some claims that it has a bright future. I disagree that those claims are real. I disagree with them. We've been going 45 minutes, so let me break this up and then we'll try to get 3 priest victories in the Tavern Brawl, this time with a deck I actually built. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.